You're listening to Talk Star Wars, a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Talk Star Wars is a production of Emotionally 14. For fantastic podcasts, video series, blog posts, and much more, visit us on the web at emotionally14.com and enjoy content for the permanently teenaged. Hello there, and welcome to Talk Star Wars, episode 174, an Emotionally 14 production. I'm your host, Rob Wade, and I'm joined, as always, by my constant compatriot, and the Chewie to my Han, the Near Numb to my Lando, who else is there?
Big Fortuna to your Jabba.
That works.
I guess. No, that doesn't sound right.
No, I know. But
that sounds like he's answered the door for you.
In any case, it's Brad Armorband.
Yeah. Hey! That was a smooth intro there. Well done.
Thank you. Take two was far superior.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be a post-credit sequence. Who knows?
I did a thing. I know exactly what I did. I tried to, in the moment, I thought, I'm going to say this. And then just before I was about to say this, I go, I'm going to do something else instead. And my brain went, no, you promised you were going to do this. Yeah. You said, you do this to me every time. Yeah. I'm not helping you. And sure enough, it didn't. So here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are on take two. But nevertheless, thankfully we got about 3 seconds in before take two started. So
the one I've done on File and Ready and Here Look It's UK more than a few times is say it's going to be one of those days and it's going to be one of those games at the same time. So there's multiple episodes where I say it's going to be one of those gays.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see how that would happen. Yeah,
and I'll just leave it in because I'm a terrible editor.
Well, no, I mean at the same time, also sometimes people sometimes people maybe go, did he? Is that? It's probably, but then they think, it's probably. I'm sure it's not that.
No, sure, it's not what he meant. Yeah,
it'd be very strange if.
I'm sure he was trying to say days and games at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, or they just find themselves sitting there thinking, well, it doesn't. The sentence doesn't work. So I'm sure that's not what it is.
So it's not unknown.
How are things? All right?
Yeah, things are good. You?
Excellent. Yeah, I'm good. I've got something in my eye, but otherwise I'm good. There we go.
That's pollen, mate.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I think I got it. Just
it's everywhere.
Some weird solid object that just found its way. Oh, it's a fridge. Don't mind.
Yep. I hate pollen. It's rough in its course and it gets everywhere.
It really does. It really does.
We were filming last night and everyone was suffering with it.
Yeah, it's been to the point where even the one a day loratadines aren't doing the trick, and I'm having to cough and splutter and sneeze and curse because it's me, and that's what I do. Thankfully, I haven't had the eye pain and stuff that I've had in previous years as a result of all those different irritations. But I've just basically just had Netflix quality streaming. Yeah. From the nose and mouth. Nice. But it's just been a jolly good time, obviously. Nice. What's new in your world? Any Star Warsy things? Or?
My Star Warsy world. I read Alphabet Squadron.
Excellent.
You're still playing through that?
I am indeed, yeah. Hopefully we should be able to get one in for...
a review next week.
Next week, yeah. Next week works. Yeah,
cool.
I can do that. I'm going for a short getaway over the weekend, and so I've got it with me I've got that and the Resident Evil 2 board game to take with me. So
nice.
The plan is that I will have some fun with one of them or both.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to playing that as well.
Yeah, so I'm basically, because it can be solo run, I'm going to give it a go through just to get my head around the rules like I did with Fallout.
Yeah.
When I first got that, and get my head around it, kind of figure out the best way to kind of run it, and then have somebody around to play.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so like I say, it's worked well with Fallout, and I see no reason why it can't work like this as well.
Yeah, I also picked up a novel. Is it a Pirate's Price, something like that? I think. Okay. Which is it's post Last Jedi on the chronology.
Okay.
It's Hondo relating a tale of young Han and Chewie when they all three of them worked together.
Cool.
So I'm looking. That's next on my to read pile. So
is that a young adult one?
Yes, it is.
It is. I was going to say, because I don't remember seeing it in the publication schedule, but that usually is because I tend to follow just the adult timeline.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Not to be confused with the adult timeline. That's
I can happily throw you a borrow if you are interested.
Yeah, I'll give it a go, happily.
It's so it's next on my to read pile, but what's really cool about that is after I've done that, I've actually hit the end of a timeline and I'll be going all the way back again.
Oh, cool. So where's that start back with? Lords of the Sith?
No, I think now the first one is Jedi Lost.
I suppose it is. Oh, you mean chronology timeline? I thought you meant publication timeline.
No, I do. Chronology. Yeah, I think publication time at New Dawn was first, and then Tarkin came quite.
Oh yeah, they were really close together, weren't they? To the point where people weren't sure if it was if they were canon or not. And A New Dawn was easier to explain away than Tarkin. That's definitely new canon because
John Jackson's Miller Kenobi came out after it was already announced that it wasn't going to be canon.
Yes, that's right.
I don't know how that affected the sales of it or
it's a good
not.
Book, though.
I haven't done it.
It's good. It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
The audiobook's good if you can get hold of it. I want to say it's Mark Thompson doing the audio narration. I'm pretty sure. It's going to be him or Jonathan Davis, but I'm pretty sure it's Mark Thompson.
Okay.
Jonathan Davis with the Legend stuff tends to do the dark side era, he tends to do the Old Republic stuff, and he tends to do the Sith characters.
Yeah.
He does the Bane trilogy a great service.
So I haven't done the audiobooks. So I've read the books when they first came out.
So good.
But I haven't done the audiobooks.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I will say about the audiobooks that works better than reading them is I have this thing. You're probably the same, actually, now I think about it. Mm-hmm. You might be inclined similarly to put a shuffle Star Wars music playlist on while you read Star Wars books.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, of course, with a shuffle playlist, or indeed a playlist in sequence, is that you don't read at a cinematic pace. You read at a book pace. And even if you read fast, you do find yourself getting to the big climactic lightsaber scene and the Yub Yub song plays.
Which is fine.
I've tried to make it work. I've tried my best, and it just doesn't. It's a pain. I try my best, and I try and make it work. Sometimes it works, and then at the same time, I find myself thinking, in some ways, it's better than some of the music choices in Jedi Lost, because that audiobook relies very heavily to quite a almost a detrimental degree on Across the Stars, which is a weird choice. Yeah,
I think we said in our review it as a really weird choice because Across the Stars is so. Yeah, it's not like there are character agnostic themes they could have used, whereas Across the Stars is very closely tied to Anakin and Padme. Yeah, not for nothing, but it's it's kind of a tragic love theme, and it was just dropped in really weird moments, like cliffhanger moments. That's it. Exactly it. It felt very, very scattershot the way it was used. Yes, you could make John Williams roll his eyes for sure. Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, he's probably too busy, to be honest. He's a busy dude. He's I don't know anything phases him, to be honest, because he talks like Ned Flanders' parents. This is true. Yeah. They use my songs in the wrong place, man. If you don't believe me, look at what it sounds like. Yeah. There's certain people just sound exactly like you'd expect, and then there's people, then there's stuff like that. Like George R.R. Martin sounds like I expected. Oh yes, yeah, very much like well, Bane, a little bit like Bane, but without the sort of mechanical elements. A little bit Bane, a little bit Kermit, a little bit kid at school you felt sorry for. That's George R.R. Martin, pretty much, and then also the voice, and true, very peculiar. But do some work, George, for God's sake. Yeah, I haven't done much Star Wars stuff recently. I've been burning through my comics still. But I'm in terms of the Star Wars comics I own, I'm caught up. Mm-hmm. The only thing I haven't actually, I tell you, the only things I haven't read, I've got a bunch of Legends compilations that I bought on the cheap, but they weren't part one of the series. They were part two or three, and obviously then I'm sitting there thinking, well, I should read the first ones, the previous ones first, and then I can't find them cheap. So I'm kind of a bit. You're on Marvel Unlimited, aren't you? No, I was, and I wasn't really reading much then. I could probably justify it now again, but I'm not currently signed up. Even if you jump on for a month, that's still cheaper than a trade paperback. Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean I could certainly, at the rate I'm clipping through stuff at the moment, I'm sure I could work my way through a couple of big tomes. I've been rereading. I know I mentioned it to you earlier.
earlier on today, I've been reading and rereading the standalone Batman Who Laughs. It started off as a 6-issue miniseries, and it's been extended to 7. Mm-hmm. And number 7, I'm guessing it comes out in a couple of weeks. And it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It's made up somewhat for the fact that Batman Damned has been really heavily delayed. Because they've only just released number 3 of that one. Mm-hmm. And that's quite a long time now it's been going. Because obviously, it feels like we were just talking about Bruce Wayne's Wang years ago now. Yeah.
I need to jump on I need to catch up with DC stuff. I might jump on the Rebirth series and just kind of...
Rebirth's a good place to jump on.
Yeah, I'll find a reading list online. There's loads of really good... But I think there's just one just called Comic Book Reading Order. It's just got loads of different recommended reading orders. And obviously, if you've got some sort of streaming service, and it's a really handy system to use.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's us talking about comics in general with a vague nod towards Star Wars. But as you haven't heard the show before, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's been known. We kind of... I mean, ultimately, we can only do so much with the material we're given. And we're a little light on... listener messages this week. We're very grateful for what we have, but we are a little light.
I do wonder, we go off on so many tangents, I do wonder if a title needs a question mark at the end.
Maybe will they talk Star Wars? Tune in next week. Maybe I can record some sort of outer sting as I go along.
When we're not podcasting, we tend to talk Star Wars anyway, so, just kind of welcome to listening in to Rob and I do what we've been doing for the past 14 years.
Pretty much, yeah. It's very much that kind of level of, it's been known. Somewhere in there, somewhere in the mix, Star Wars is talked.
Yeah.
But, in terms of news this week, the biggest news was that somebody is not in something.
Oh, okay. Daisy Ridley is not in...
The new trilogies.
The new trilogy, which we knew. So.
Yeah, that's my understanding is that she was asked she went on Good Morning America.
That's it, yeah.
And they just did the usual spiel. And then she went on, I want to say BuzzFeed.
Maybe.
Yeah, and then she went on there and they asked her kind of point blank, do any of the new films kind of revolve around her character? And she said no. Mm-hmm. Some people picked up on the wording to suggest that she was talking about Rian Johnson's trilogy in the past tense, but I read the bits and pieces of the transcript I read didn't really touch on that, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that one.
People overanalyze the wording.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say. And I mean, ultimately, the bits I read didn't really communicate that to me, but then at the same time, I may not have read the whole thing, so, I kind of caveat with that. And then she went on Jimmy Fallon as well, and was charming, which, it's to be expected, really, isn't it? And then she probably, the fact that she existed was enough to send Fallon into hysterics because it's Jimmy Fallon and that's what he does.
Yeah.
I like the guy.
I'm familiar with the Jimmys.
Yeah, I like him, but at the same time, he needs to ratchet that down a touch every now and then. Just, you can just laugh normally, like a person does. Like he's
human. Yeah.
Because he's a person. We know this.
A replicant in need of a software update.
Exactly. It's just somebody overdid the old... it's like the video game L.A. Noire and the facial expressions. So it's actors acting in a way that can be picked up by mocap.
Yeah. And so Jimmy Fallon's the one who looks like Jiminy Cricket, isn't he?
A bit, yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the big news of the week was that she's not in films. Like she's doing other films.
Yeah,
not those ones.
I'm sure she'll be busy for years to come.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, absolutely. She's already starred in things like she's been in Murder on the Orient Express, and she's in this new film, Ophelia, which is Hamlet from the point of view of Ophelia.
Oh, nice.
I mean, if people want to see that, then that's cool. I mean,
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, there you go. Like it's an interesting premise to kind of retell things from different characters' perspectives. Especially if they're, I haven't read Hamlet. I'll caveat before I say this, just in case you go, what is he talking about? But where
is that one with King Lear in?
It's like Orson Scott Card did with Ender's Game. Mm-hmm. He did a whole series called Ender's Shadow about a character who's not the main character. He's not Ender, but at the same time, he's there in a lot of the scenes, and you kind of get a fresh perspective. So it's kind of that sort of treatment of it almost.
Nice. Have you seen or read Rosencrantz and Guildenstern the Dead?
I have not. I've read Tag and Binker. Tag and Binker Dead.
Yeah, it's that kind of concept. It's in Hamlet. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are two of Hamlet's friends who come to visit him to try and cheer him up. Very, very minor parts.
Yeah.
And it's a Tom Stoppard comedy play retelling Hamlet from these two completely incidental characters.
Yeah.
If you can hunt down the film version from like the late 80s, early 90s, it's well worth doing because Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Tim Roth and Gary Oldman in a comedy.
Oh, that is a great cast. Yeah,
it really is.
Wow. I'll have to give that a go for sure. Anyway, what was I talking about?
Star Wars.
Yeah, but around.
Then we went. We went
Daisy Ridley.
Ophelia because Daisy Ridley's in.
Okay.
Not Hamlet.
This is Daisy Ridley, not Hamlet, but Hamlet-esque.
I like that idea. Yeah, Hamlet, Red Sun, whatever, you know.
Yeah. Elseworlds.
Yeah. Ultimate Hamlet.
Yeah. Hamlet Infinities. There you go.
Yeah.
Bring it back to Star Wars.
Shakespeare of a new canon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think Legends Shakespeare is Upstart Crow, isn't it?
I suppose it is, yeah.
Never mind.
Americans watch that. It's brilliant.
Really? I found it to be...
liked it.
I watched it, but I found it to be very devoid of things that made me laugh.
I really liked it, but that's because I'm a huge Blackadder fan. It literally just felt like more Blackadder to me.
Yeah, no, I can see that. But yeah, it didn't quite land in the same way for me.
Fair enough.
But I did watch the entire first series and kind of was happy to have it on as kind of background noise. And Gemma Whelan was, playing a departure in a character terms, and I found her quite endearing.
Yeah, no, she's good in that. Actually. Yeah.
So Daisy Ridley's not in the films. There you go.
Not in films.
So our first email.
How can that be the news of the week?
It's that slow. This is my point.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I mean, but surely Mark Hamill's got a new film out. That's news.
Mark Hamill does have a new film out. He's in the remake of Child's Play, of course.
Yeah, and apparently he's brilliant.
Apparently so. I don't doubt it.
To the surprise of no one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like he channeled the same sort of Joker-style voice that he's known for. His kind of, quiet mania.
Yeah.
Which is a weird pay-per-view if you ever watch it. But yeah, it's So our first email this week, man. I'm really good. I'm really on my game this week.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine with it.
Our first
the children didn't notice. It's fine.
Our first message this week comes from Vesuvi.
Yay!
Regarding last week's episode, and Vesuvi writes, "Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Brad.
You're welcome, Vesuvi.
You were both sorely missed last week, and yes, I eventually found announcements online explaining your impromptu break.
Oh, friend.
But I hope you enjoyed your recess. Thanks, Italians.
Grazie
mille. In your absence, I took the opportunity to begin binge-watching Chernobyl. It was so riveting, horrifying, and well-presented that I finished it all within 6 hours of starting. I owe an extra debt of thanks to Rob for putting it on my radar." Well, you're welcome, Vesuvi. I thought it was very good, and I've not had anybody so far, in fact, say a bad word against it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm curious about it, but I don't have whatever service it's on.
Yeah, it's on Sky. I want to say Sky Atlantic.
I don't have Sky Atlantic, and I don't have Now TV, so I'll have to wait.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Turn up somewhere else.
I'm sure it will at some point.
Yeah,
I'd be very surprised if it's not already on its way.
It's very good.
Yeah, it's excellent in the most depressing way.
Okay,
it's the best way. Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad proxy, actually.
There we go. Now, Talk Stars has now got a question mark at the end, followed by depressing in the best way.
Yeah, there you go. If we
Which makes us sound like the worst brand of coffee. That's what we sound like.
Cheers to Matt for continuing my running gag with the postscripts. And if you ever wondered, my tea taste generally runs to the caffeine-free herbal varieties. Peppermint is a favourite, followed closely by hibiscus/rosehip, barely sweetened with a dinky squirt of agave nectar. And yes, I'm no stranger to ginger lemon.
So what you're saying is your favourite tea doesn't taste anything like tea?
Your favourite tea is all the tea.
Yeah, yes.
Except for traditional tea.
Except for any type of tea.
So, Vesuvi
just
continues.
Pour some boiling water on some potpourri, I'll drink that.
Oh man, I've seen that done. I feel like Vesuvi continues. Since you asked, and we did, I'd say the universal leveler in Star Wars fandom is the youthful ardor one felt when first becoming enamored with the franchise. The entryways may all differ, but the enthusiasm itself is probably similar in its impactfulness. That's what she said. Yeah. I maintain that the split occurs when some allow that feeling to evolve and that evolution is embraced, while others chase the exact same high, which is virtually impossible through adult neural pathways. Ah, well, thanks for bringing me down on that one. May a takate, a light on your shoulder, if you should ever visit Deveron, Vesuvi, Knight of the Commonwealth. All right, so what do you make of that one? We'll talk a bit more about our own ones, but the youthful ardor of your first immersion in the universe, would you say that's a qualifier? Would that be a candidate?
I don't. It's tough for me because I don't actually ever remember seeing Star Wars for the first time. It's just kind of been like this background radiation level of Star Wars in my life.
Yeah.
The whole time, so I don't know. The closest I can think of is when I was about 15, maybe 16, with the Behind the Magic CD-ROM.
Oh, yeah, I like that a lot.
Not only was it a great behind-the-scenes reference and loads of making of stuff, which I found really interesting. But that is where I actually found out that the expanded universe was a thing. I mean, I'd seen Star Wars novels in the shop and always just kind of written them off like Star Trek novels as just kind of glorified fan fiction, really. I hadn't realised that there was this network of supportive materials. And when I found out that was a thing, I found that that got me infused.
Yeah, there's quite a rich, to know more. There's quite a rich lore surrounding Star Wars that you like you say, you initially kind of almost write off as, oh well, that's just kind of glorified fanfic, and you soon realize, oh, actually no, there's some good stuff in here. There are some bits that read like glorified fanfic, to by no means to write those off, but you know, generally speaking, there's some stuff that's really good. What was your first out of interest, your first Legends book in terms of the ones you read?
Before I read Glove of Darth Vader when I was about 8 when it came out. That's before I realised it was in the universe again. I was a kid reading a Star Wars story. Yeah. The first one I read knowing there was an expanded universe was, I think, Splinter of the Mind's Eye. Okay,
that would probably be up in my, towards the top of my list.
So I think I bought that and Shadows of the Empire in the same shopping trip, but I think I did Splinter first.
Okay, fair enough. I remember mine. It is probably you'll find yourself when you hear this one, you'll be like, wow, and you stuck with them all. Crystal Star.
Wow,
it's not good.
It's very Star Trek.
It is very. It's very also very not great.
It's not great, and it really does feel like a Crystal Star is for one this bizarre kind of force creature that they encounter, isn't it?
That's the one, yeah. Hethria and the
Hethria.
What's it called? The name of the blooming thing.
It feels very much like an episode of the original series of Star Trek where they beam down and they would encounter this bizarre thing. And knowing that Vonda McIntyre also wrote Star Trek novels, I do wonder if she wrote the story and then did a find and replace depending on who picked the contract up. And, I like Star Trek. Star Trek's really grown on me over the last couple of years when I've made a real go of getting into it. But I like Star Wars to be Star Wars and I like Star Trek to be Star Trek. Similarly, I'm not a huge fan of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, so I find they try too hard to be Star Wars at times. But yeah, Crystal Star really does just feel like an episode of the original series of Star Trek.
Yeah. I'm just having a look now at Crystal Star, trying to work out what the name of that being was called, and actually I'm struggling here because it seems to, in the summary, there's no mention of it. It just mentions Hethria and the Empire Reborn, but no mention of the power. I'm talking even including the Wikipedia article. Yeah, maybe there wasn't one. Maybe we just sort of proxied it in from another, also kind of middling book.
I am not an effect.
Yeah, it's a bit of a...
me and you had a massive fan cast going on as well, didn't we?
We did. There was an epic project.
Yeah. I think a couple of mine actually ended up being in Star Wars eventually.
Yes, but not necessarily as the characters we had in mind. Yeah,
I had Max von Sydow as Pelion.
And he's in there.
Yeah.
He is in the mix.
I had Sarah Michelle Gellar as someone as well, but I can't for the life of me think who. Callista?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I think I had Sarah Michelle Gellar for her. Obviously now she's in Rebels.
Yes, she is, yeah. One of the sisters.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a feeling there's more, but man, that was epic project we had going on.
Yeah. Oh, that was one thing I forgot to mention from last week. We talked about Fallen Order. Mm-hmm. One of the things I thought was cool was watching the lightsaber duel between the brother. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the names of how they quantify them. But the one of the Inquisitors and the hero, and it looked like a really interesting combat engine.
Yeah. In
that particular moment, it looks pretty good.
Yeah. Intrigued.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to remember how we got here.
Hamlet.
We've moved on from Hamlet. Unlike filmmakers, apparently.
We got here from Behind the Magic. I think we were talking about our first experiences of Legends materials.
Yes.
So, why do we sound like two stoners sometimes?
We do, which is weird, right? Because,
man.
Well, I'm sure Rob Cast can slow it down and make a sound accordingly. He's managed to do it with the Tumbling Saber guys, and that was not as hard as it seemed simple enough to get to grips with. I'll say that. But he's, Rob Cast is obviously a very talented audio person, so it's not hard for him to do that stuff anyway, because he knows what he's doing. That's why we're happy to have him as part of our podcast production outfit. So in terms of Universal, I kind of agree with the notion of this sort of youthful enthusiasm of when you first get into it, and it's the only thing you want to watch, it's the only thing you want to talk about, and you probably alienate all the friends who aren't so inclined. But whatever. Like it's one of those things you can just deal with as you go along, I guess. Especially if you meet more kind of like-minded people.
Yeah. Like us.
Yeah, exactly.
We're here for you.
Well, there you go, see? So the next message is probably the easy way. So we'll come back to the Universal Levelers because there's another one to come.
Oh, someone else touches on it. Cool.
Yeah. So there's our next message comes from Darth Mark, who was the Dark Jedi formerly known as Mark Airy, who has apparently gone through some sort of rebranding exercise. So our congratulations to you, Darth Mark, in your newfound community. The thing everyone loves is Queen, but in Star Wars, it's
universal.
It's with some exceptions. I do know a couple, not many.
Yeah, but I don't tend to stay friends with them.
Well, I'm marrying one.
What?
Yeah, no, really. I think she's just heard certain songs too many times and just kind of, that sort of radio fatigue that sort of you can really put you off. I mean, to be fair, Bohemian Rhapsody is an excellent song. I enjoy it very much, but at the same time, it wouldn't be the first one I'd go for.
No, same. What is your favourite Queen song, though? That's a real question.
I really like there's two kind of ones that stick out, and I would find it hard to choose between the two, but I'll do my best. Okay. It's between Innuendo and Princes of the Universe.
See, I like Prince of the Universe, but I wonder if that's because of Highlander associations.
I'm not sure. I kind of always imagined it as like if we ever did any kind of podcast panel, it would be what we'd walk out to.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of epic entrance music feel.
Yeah, my favourite, which takes people by surprise, is also from a Highlander soundtrack, but I love Who Wants to Live Forever.
That's a great song. It's a really great song. So sad, but so lovely at the same time. Also, Show Must Go On is excellent in the same way. Sad, but also excellent. And that's one of those ones I've always imagined kind of, figuring into some sort of performance. Yeah,
Death on Two Legs. I like anything off Night of the Opera, to be honest with you.
I don't know if I've heard Death on Two Legs.
It's the opening track of Night of the Opera.
I don't think I've heard Night of the Opera all the way through.
Oh, wow. Well, that's your Spotify assignment for tomorrow.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Queen, or Night of the Opera. Yeah.
Night of the Opera is,
there you go. Yeah, nice.
It's their dark side. I think you'll like it.
Okay, nice. I'm pretty sure I've heard a few tracks off it, so it'll just be a case of filling in the blanks. As you mentioned Jedi Fallen Order, which to me looks like a platform game, which I dislike, and the fact the hero looks a bit like the Joker really puts me off. He has got a bit of a...
mate. Yeah.
And it's also alpha as well, so, it probably has got some weird edges.
Yeah.
The platforming stuff, my understanding is it's not the bulk of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some kind of free running and exploration and stuff, because
it just looked
ultimately,
like an Uncharted game from what I saw of it, which I'm fine with because I like the Uncharted games.
Yeah, ultimately it's made by the people who made Titanfall, so there will be a bit of wall running because they're quite good. They've got a really good engine for that apparently, because it turns up in all of their games and works really well. It
works for force powers for sure.
Yeah, for 100%. There's so much of that game that works in terms of the stuff. When you see people, like, I really liked the physics on the bit where he sort of force pushes the door. The physics on that looked fantastic. I'm not sure how much of that was kind of in-game cutscene, kind of where it's kind of sort of pre-scripted events within the engine, because it's hard to tell sometimes. They do a good, especially when it's not a proper demo. Yeah, it's a bit harder to tell sometimes. But I do kind of understand if Mark's not a platform game fan. I could certainly see how it would look. That demo, the E3 demo, wouldn't look particularly appealing. But I do get the impression there's a bit more to it than that.
Okay.
What genre of games do you both prefer? I'll read the next bit as well. My life currently revolves around Red Dead Redemption 2, and I'd love to see a Star Wars version, maybe around The Mandalorian. Anyway, great show as always, and any more requests, let me know. Darth Mark, brackets, rebranded. Genre of games, what's your poison, or your poisons?
Trying to think, really. So I'm not as big a video gamer as a lot of the guys in E14. I really like visual novel type stuff, or interactive movie, whatever correct term is ago. I really love stuff like Until Dawn and Heavy Rain, the branching storyline stuff. So I need to pick up Detroit at some point.
I can give you a borrow of that if you want. I've got a copy.
Okay, cool. That'd be great. So I like that kind of branching storyline, because they just remind me, they're basically illustrated game books, which I used to love as a kid.
You like the Choices Matter? In Steam, they're called Choices Matter games.
Oh, okay. I'll look those up.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Man of Medan as well when that comes out.
That's the Until Dawn developers' next one, isn't it?
They kind of realised they were on a big thing with Until Dawn, and so what they're doing is they're planning on doing 2 smaller games a year.
Okay, nice.
I think they're going to be like 2 budget titles a year.
That's a good. That seems like a good model.
Yeah, it seems a compromise between doing a massive game
and doing episodic.
Episodic, because I think Telltale's kind of proven that's not a really existing market anymore.
I think Telltale, for me, probably spread themselves a bit thin. Like, you think about there's a couple of things. First of all, a lot of people like to binge now. So they would probably just go, I'll wait for the disc one to come out, which will have all the episodes.
Yeah, that's all it is.
But also, they had so many by the end. Because they were doing, let me think, they had Walking Dead. They were working on the second series of The Wolf Among Us.
Yeah.
So if you just think about the franchises they looked after, they had Walking Dead, Fables, Batman,
Game of
Thrones, Guardians of the Galaxy had just dropped. They had one series of that.
They did have Jurassic Park, but I don't know if they did a lot with it.
Apparently it didn't turn out very well. And I can see it. It doesn't seem like the kind of game that translates very well to...
I've heard it's a very good movie with no real options in it.
Yeah, that sounds like you're probably just playing the game a bit, like playing the film out. Yeah. And that's sort of not what I think people wanted to get out of one of those games.
I loved their Batman games.
I played the first series. I haven't played the second.
I actually think it was one of my favourite interpretations of Batman. Their take on it.
The first series was really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
It's the first time I've ever seen a Penguin as a credible villain. Yeah,
he was very, very good in that. Like, they handled him very well. They also had Back to the Future at one point, early on.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
They had their own franchise, which I reviewed for E14 way back, called Puzzle Agent.
Oh, that was so much fun. I forgot that.
It was really good. Yeah, it was really good.
It's quite different from their other stuff, but that was a good fun one.
But yeah, it was interesting.
Weird ending, but really good.
Oh, the whole thing was weird. Like, just a strange thing. But then at the same time, I played Wolf Among Us, and that had some weird twists, weird turns as well.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, you were saying visual novels.
Yeah, I do like shooters as well. I'm a big fan of stuff like Sleeping Dogs, L.A. Noire, Mafia games, stuff like that.
Okay. And
if you like, it's full as a protagonist blowing stuff up. I quite enjoy those.
Yeah, it sounds. But you sounds like you kind of like almost a specific genre within shooters, because I wouldn't imagine you're much you play much in the way of the Call of Duty and Battlefield style stuff?
I'll play Battlefront, but that's more because I'm a Star Wars fan than I'm a video game fan.
Yeah.
No, I don't tend to go for the Tom Clancy stuff or. I've never played like Gears of War or anything like that.
Well, I think you dig that one.
I played Space Marine, which I'm told was basically Gears of Warhammer.
Yeah, not as good, but still enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Gears. So I think you dig Gears if you played it, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, those are kind of my gem. I've been lent Alien. I own Alien Isolation on PS3. I've been lent a PS4 copy, so I need to crack on with that because anything with aliens in it isn't Colonial Marines. I'm well up for playing.
I even found Colonial Marines bearable by the end.
Yeah,
it just wasn't amazing.
Well, as I just said about Battlefront, if reviews I've seen of Colonial Marines lead me to believe that it would annoy me more as an Aliens fan than I'd enjoy it as a video games fan.
I think that is fair if you place quite a lot of, if you place quite a lot of importance in the story tying up well, then it would probably make you very cross.
Yeah, that's
it took some not insignificant liberties.
You know what? It wouldn't have been so bad if Fox hadn't have really hammered home that this is the official sequel to Aliens, this is official canon story. If they hadn't pushed that so hard, people would have been more forgiving of it. I think if they'd just gone, it's just a poodoo video game. Who really cares?
Yeah,
but because they really
hammered that point of like this is. Yeah.
If the artists and the publishers take it seriously, then the audience expects to take it seriously as well. It's like I was just saying, like I said, I've enjoyed some of the Star Trek novels I've read, but they've always from the start said these are not canon to the TV show, these are fluff, these are fun, but they are not hard canon.
And that's fine.
And the readers go in knowing that.
Yeah.
Whereas Star Wars very much took the other approach of expanding this and went, this is hard canon, we've put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah.
And so the audience expectation goes the same way. Mm-hmm. These people who worked on this, they've said it's canon, I'm accepting it as canon.
Yeah.
They've said it's fluff, I'm accepting it as fluff.
Yeah.
And if Fox had said Colonial Marines, or just gone as Colonial Marines as an alien shooter coming out, and there'd have been some odd references which didn't tie up with the movie, I think people would have been more forgiving of it than them saying they were taking it seriously when they obviously weren't.
Yeah, I do get what you mean. Any other genres that kind of stand out for you?
I used to like point and click games back in the day, but I haven't played any for a long time.
Oh, I've played some really good ones of those.
Yeah.
In recent memory. There seems to be a little bit of a resurgence of those on Steam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've picked up a couple. Yeah, I've picked up a couple of those, and they're pretty enjoyable.
I've played Beat Cop actually. That's kind of point and clicky. I liked that.
I played a little bit of that. I had like a demo version on either on my Switch or on my phone. I forget which. Okay. But they basically, I think it might have been my phone. They had like a sort of free download version, which was the sort of intro to get you used to the game, and then if you liked it, you could buy you could upgrade it to the full one for sort of £5-6 or something, which seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Depends on how long. I don't know how much gameplay there is in it in terms of how long it'll last you, but obviously. Mm-hmm. I haven't played it fully, so I wouldn't know that. Why would I? But yeah.
No.
But I say, point and click seem to have undergone a little bit of a resurgence in recent years, and I played a good one recently called Kathy Rain, which I thought was quite enjoyable.
Okay.
It starts off as sort of a plain kind of person trying to find out more about an event, and then it takes some really weird twists and turns, and you think, oh man, this is quite gripping.
Yeah.
And it's only about 4 or 5 hours worth of gameplay, but at the same time it was really, really good and really compact. So it didn't feel so kind of, and also it's quite cheap. So that's the nice thing about Steam and kind of related distribution models is you don't end up feeling like you spent a ton of money unnecessarily when something's short. If you've paid sort of £5-6 for it, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
In terms of stuff that I've enjoyed recently, I quite like simulation and kind of management sims. In terms of, I play quite a lot of those. Not just kind of things exclusively like your Football Managers and things like that, but also ones where it's like SimCity styles and Hospital Tycoon, that sort of thing. Just anything where you're put in charge of a kind of far more responsibility than any one person would ever have.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, because I was sitting there thinking about this. I'm trying to remember what game it was in the context of. I think it might have been a SimCity style game, something like that. And I found myself thinking, in what world would one person be in charge of all this stuff by themselves?
Yeah.
In many ways, if you're good at those games, it almost qualifies you to do the job for real.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. I should be the mayor of a town. I've just managed to I've managed to keep the budget under while also making this massive, massive city by myself.
Yeah.
Because actually all you end up doing is getting advice from people who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? But they don't lift a finger to help you. They
just get shouted at, don't you?
Yeah, they just give you a rollicking if you in so much as step out of line a bit.
It ends up being middle management simulator. You're basically doing all the work for none of the credit.
Exactly.
Who needs that?
What else have I been playing? I like
no idea.
I quite like open world games where there's kind of anything kind of non-linear, really. But recently I've played Crackdown 3, which that series is a favourite of mine, and the new one, although it had a pretty troubled production up until the point of release, it's still really enjoyable. It's just, you jump around the city. It's one of those games where you can sort of power up to the point where you can basically just leap up a skyscraper in about 6 jumps. It's that kind of, it's sort of weirdly equal parts kind of RoboCop, Judge Dredd, but also that kind of over-the-top raid style level of silliness,
Yeah.
But with the gameplay of something where you jump around a lot. I don't know how best to...
Flip ribbon.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, so like I say, management sims and things like that are quite a favourite of mine.
I want to like management sims, but it's finding the time to sink into them.
They can be a time sink, and I do find myself, my most played game on Steam is still Football Manager 2000. I want to say 2009.
I'm not a huge football fan, and I love football management games.
Yeah, but I think I've played about 160 hours of it. And that's not even, I'm pretty convinced that's not even the one I've played the most. It's just the first one that I got on Steam.
Right, okay.
Because I played 2005 to absolute death. I had one save that went for 16 seasons.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I managed to win basically every trophy in the top divisions except for the Premier League. And it's like one of those weird statistics about my gaming history is I've never managed to win the Premier League on any Football Manager game ever.
Brilliant. What a claim.
Yeah. Not a single one. I've won it on I think I've won it on FIFA.
It's pretty point you're just claiming you don't want it now.
Pretty much, yeah. I lost it on goal difference one year. That sucked.
What?
Yeah, equal points. The only thing that they'd scored 10 more goals than I had over the season.
I just switched the computer off out of spite.
Forget this. Flip. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, open world games, one of the more recent ones I played, which I absolutely adored and played to death, was GTA 5.
I haven't played GTA games since Lost in the Damned, I think. It's been a while.
Yeah. 5 is good. 5 is really good. Yeah. It's excellent. Just
What's the story for that one?
It's about it's 3 main characters. It's about one who, I'm trying to think the best way of explaining it. There's two of them were involved in a gang, and then they had a botched bank robbery, and then they go their separate ways in reasons I won't, in ways that I won't say because too much about because of spoilers. And then there's a third character who kind of gets drafted into the story as it unfolds, and then you follow each of them round, but you can hot swap to any of them at any time.
Oh, nice!
So you can jump around the map. And just, you can, if you want, you can spend all your time, apart from the stuff where you have to play as the other two, you can play as one character the whole way through if you want.
Oh, nice.
You can do bits and pieces. There's lots of missions where it's like, oh, you have to use this person, but otherwise it's pretty much exclusively kind of up to you.
Oh, cool.
That's the main ones, I guess. Management sims, I do like strategy games, but I'm not. Again, you talk about like time sinks for God games and management stuff. The time sink for strategy, especially the 4X space strategy games, is immense. The amount you have to sink into it to be good.
Yeah, I think this is why God's so busy.
I believe it. I think that's absolutely the reason. I can totally see how that would be the case. It just strikes me as the kind of guy who's got a lot going on. And that won't help, quite frankly. So that brings me to a question, actually. So we've obviously Mark's kind of asked us about our favorite styles of games in general.
Yes.
If you had to pick a favorite Star Wars video game, what would your pick be? Because there are some really good choices in there. There is also a lot of trash.
There's a lot of pants.
But at the same time, in amongst that trash is some gold.
Favorite Star Wars game? We're talking video games, yeah.
Well, I mean, we've done the last few weeks. We've done a fair bit on the tabletop stuff. Although, if there is something that's not currently about that you think is worthy of a mention, then obviously because eBay and related websites are still a thing.
Yeah.
So if somebody could get hold of something good, then they could. It'd be nice to have a steer on that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we've had fun with a D6 RPG.
We have, that's true.
Yeah.
I was thinking about RPGs a lot recently because I've been listening to a podcast called The Adventure Zone. I don't know if you've heard it.
Okay. I've heard of it.
It's really, really enjoyable.
Really?
I've been working my way through it. I'm about 4 years behind because it's been going for quite a while. But I'm working my way through, and it's hilarious. Some of the stuff has me, when you find something, a bit like the Alan Partridge audiobook.
Yes.
And you have to kind of, on public transport, you have to be really careful not to just burst into uncontrollable laughter.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's that sort of environment pretty much. Once or twice an episode, there's something that I really have to restrain myself from just bursting into laughter of,
Excellent.
Some of the things, some of the just the throwaway lines that you don't immediately, like the Rancor wristband.
Yeah. Yeah,
that sort of thing that you don't immediately pick up on, and then suddenly it twigs, and you just go, "Oh no, I'm dead." Yeah,
yeah,
I'm done. But yeah, is there a Star Wars kind of video game that springs to mind?
Video game.
Yeah,
I'm running through the different generations in my head, trying to think of all the ones I've played. Rogue Squadron it was a big favourite of mine. So it was basically Star Wars Afterburner.
Yeah, that game's great.
Yeah, I don't know if there's still a version of that knocking around or run on DOSBox or something.
Rogue Squadron, there might be a DOSBox style version. I feel like it's the kind of game that might have been ported to Steam by now.
Or GOG at least, yeah.
I'm pretty sure GOG has it. But Steam actually has gone to quite great lengths to get a lot of the old back catalogue stuff turned into Steam-friendly stuff. I think Rogue Squadron might be in there,
Okay, that'd be me for the weekend then.
Yeah.
A lot of fun times playing Jedi Knight, but I don't know how well that would actually date.
What a game. God,
I don't know how well that would date, but I did remember enjoying it at the time.
First Jedi Knight probably doesn't date fantastically well. The second one, I think, is still really highly regarded now. Even as like in the context of modern games, it's still because it's still. I mean, Jedi Knight 2 looks fantastic as well. It's really, really visually appealing, and it had a strong story. I mean, the first one had a strong story too, but like I say, time has not been as kind to that technologically. No,
I don't know how well the effects in that would have dated.
Oh, the full motion video stuff in the cutscenes must look like absolute trash.
Absolute pants, yeah. Worse than the Wing Commander games.
Oh, man, yeah. And some of those, things like basically Night Trap kind of era.
Oh, man, yeah.
That probably has some nostalgic kind of cheese appeal.
Night Trap. Yeah, I have Night Trap on Mega CD, man.
Yeah. But if you're playing Jedi Knight,
what a terrible game.
Jedi Knight 2 is better in every conceivable way.
Well, this is true. Yeah.
Then you're probably just doing it because of nostalgia.
Through PC, I liked X-Wing, but I don't think I ever got really good at it. Galactic Battlegrounds I liked a lot.
I liked that. Basically the Star Wars skinned Age of Empires.
Yeah. So it was like Empire at War was good, but I felt Empire Wars also got a bit bloated.
Right. Maybe the space stuff and the ground stuff was a bit too much.
Yeah, it was more complicated than it needed to be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I remember playing Rebellion, which kind of, it's loosely like the tabletop one.
Very
in
loosely,
some respects. Yeah. Very loosely. But I mean, the core is there. But actually, in some ways, both versions have their own mechanics that are sort of quite distinct.
Yeah.
The board game, I would say, is probably there's not probably about it. I would really consider it the superior one of the two. But that's not, that would be a disservice to how much I played the PC version. I absolutely, rinsed through that game over and over again. I was playing it constantly when I was younger. It was just my one, even though it wasn't amazing, it was one of my favorite games.
Okay.
It was just I spent so much time playing it. I just really enjoyed the mechanics. It just wasn't the best executed. I've replayed it recently, and in particular, the battle engine for the space battles is rough.
Oh, really?
Like, really rough. Super rough. And also, this is a weird thing, but you'd think, right? So bearing in mind, obviously the Rebellion board game, the last bolt's gone in on the Death Star, right? So it's just become operational.
Yep.
In the the PC game, the Death Star's just been destroyed. The first Death Star. So basically, the intro is a mad dash to get to Yavin 4 if you're the Empire. If you feel like there's any point in doing that, you can go directly to Yavin 4 and try and head the rebels off. If you're the rebels, you're getting out of Dodge and finding a new base somewhere and trying to keep hidden.
Yeah, okay.
Meanwhile, you're striking and trying to rally systems to your cause and all that. You'd think, bearing in mind that although the rebels just destroyed the Death Star, the entire Imperial Navy is still around.
Yeah.
You'd think you start off pretty well kitted out, right?
I mean, you'd hope so.
2 Imperial-class Star Destroyers.
Is that it?
That's it.
What?
That's what you start off with in that game.
Who's in charge around it? Well, obviously the Emperor. But
yeah, clearly they've not been taking... They've not been looking at Orson's playbook, have they?
And obviously they've just been shouting advice from the sidelines like a supporting character in SimCity.
Well, exactly. It just seems, just seems mad. But at the same time, what was funny about it was you were so powerful in the game, you were actually ordering the Emperor around and having him report to you. He was actually coming back to you and going, that did not go as I'd expected. And you're meant to be like, you're rubbish, mate.
Really?
Who are you
supposed to be?
It's Bane? It's basically, I'm not sure what it's supposed to be, but like, it sort of makes sense in the Rebel Alliance a bit, because you can, obviously you're kind of, you end up ordering around Han Solo and Leia and stuff.
You can just be a fictional general.
Exactly.
Yeah, right? Okay. I know they're all fictional listeners, but you knew what I meant. But a non-canon one.
A non-canon one, yeah. But the Empire, you actually end up ordering around Thrawn, Bevel Lemelisk. Yeah, exactly. And you also end up telling Palpatine where to go.
That's Vader's job.
Yeah, but then you order Vader around too. So, what's going on? I don't get it.
It's one of those, it sounds like it's made by a Star Wars fan who'd never seen Star Wars.
But the thing is, it was a LucasArts. Yeah, they made it.
Sure it was.
Yeah, very strange.
Yeah, that's not how you do a Star War.
No, it didn't feel like a Star War in the slightest.
Very strange.
Yeah, I say very, very odd. But to not mention it in the context of my favourite Star Wars games would be doing it a tremendous disservice because I had so much fun playing it.
Yeah, similarly, Force Unleashed, I remember enjoying it at the time, but I don't think time would actually have been that kind to it.
Probably not. There was the big thing about that was I think it was called Euphoria, the engine that allowed you to kind of, you were able to take limbs off stormtroopers with your lightsaber, and you were able to, like, all the wood crates would splinter when they got broken and that sort of thing.
It made you feel powerful. It made you feel...
It was great at that, yeah, for sure. But it just didn't feel like it lit the world on fire in many other respects.
No, I mean, it was God of War with Star Wars plastered over the top of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that was fine. I mean, that was kind of the game they wanted to play.
Yeah, but the best Star Wars games are literally just faceplant over, and that's not a word I meant, over an already existing video game. All the best ones.
Reskin,
yeah, but all just reskins of already better games.
Yeah. I always felt like...
that's why if Fallen Order turns out to be a knockoff of Uncharted, I'll have no complaints whatsoever.
Absolutely, yeah. I always felt like if you were choosing franchises for a Telltale series, Star Wars would have been a good one.
Yeah, but I think they might have been hamstrung by the canon requirements, as a lot of publishers complained about. Maybe.
But then at the same time, they could have just told stories about other people in the universe. I mean, they did that with, they had... even the Fables story they told in Wolf Among Us wasn't part... As far as I know, it wasn't part of the main Fables canon. It was just a sort of standalone story that kind of worked in context. So maybe, like you say, maybe they just had stricter rules. I mean, Fables is obviously, by its nature, it's about fairy tale characters, and so it doesn't really matter if you're taking liberties, because you've already kind of taken liberties with the whole premise. But yeah, maybe Star Wars were kind of stricter. But I say, it feels like there's more scope to just invent a character who just exists in the context of the world, like Lee in Walking Dead. He's not in the he's not in the show. He's not in the comics.
Yeah, but I think because of the story group, they would still be all the paperwork involved and all the licensing involved. Probably would hamstrung them more than an Image comic, because these things predated the TV show as well, so it was even easier back then.
That's true. Yeah, I do sort of wish that they'd given at least kind of explored the possibility. Maybe they did. Who knows? But I feel like it would have been a good fit because Star Wars. There's so much scope to tell stories off in any world. I also felt like Telltale could have made an incredible Battlestar Galactica game. Yeah, because obviously that again, it's like you've got although you've got the Galactica is the main ship in the fleet, you've got all these other ships where you could have stories going on. Yeah, and sort of thread it into the main Battlestar narrative here and there. Feels like Star Wars could do that too, but like you say, maybe it's just that little bit trickier that makes it not worth pursuing. Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
I'm intrigued by what Mark means about any more requests to let him know. I guess it's the universal leveler thing, but
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, he said Princess Leia, which I can see.
That's hard to argue with.
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
No one says I hate Princess Leia. Not on our watch anyway.
No, I can't think of anybody who's ever said that to me.
No. That's what you're looking for. Is something a universal level has to be something. It's
as close to universal agreement as it's possible to get in the world.
Yeah, I've always said Ghostbusters because you might meet people who aren't fussed for it, but have you ever met anyone who says they can't stand or they hate Ghostbusters?
The original.
Yeah.
No, can't think of it.
Exactly. See.
Yeah. It's a good candidate, certainly in general terms. So we had a suggestion from our intrepid listener, Knight of the Commonwealth and Lego genius, Matthew Salvatore.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he is a very lovable guy, and he gave us a universal leveler. So Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan is a universal leveler in Star Wars. The vast majority think Ewan is perfect as Kenobi. I also think this is why there is such an outcry for a Kenobi movie. I can't remember ever having heard anybody bemoan his performance.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. I thought my initial take was, is he saying he's the best Kenobi? Because he's not.
No, but him as Obi-Wan is a good cast with Alec Guinness in context.
Yeah, absolutely. The only criticisms I ever heard of him was he was trying too hard to be Alec Guinness when Phantom Menace first came out. But how could he not?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to not steer. You know where you need to end up.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of an unfair complaint, but it was a complaint I heard, hence me reporting it.
I can understand how people would have that complaint. As you say, in Phantom Menace, it does feel, it seems a little bit more like he's kind of playing a character he's been told to play, and then Episode 2 sort of feels a bit more like he's playing it how he wants to play it and settling in a bit more.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, he is kind of. I can sympathise with that position because he's playing a character who, although it's got to be a really difficult one actually. Now I think about it,
if my brain went down a handbrake turn, so I thought I can sympathise with that position because I was once cast in a prequel for Bridge Over River Kwai.
Similarly, I bet this is the problem I'd run into too, but It's got to be a really weird juxtaposition because he's playing an established character about whom there is next to no information before that point.
Yeah, I guess so.
All you have is Clone Wars.
Yeah,
Anakin Skywalker. That's about it.
Yeah,
he was Jedi once. That's it. And Yoda's involved somehow. That's it. That's all you've got. But you've got a kind of. So then you've simultaneously got this character who's really rich in storytelling territory, but at the same time he's so beloved that nobody will tolerate you doing it any other way than just be a young one.
Yeah.
So then he can grow into it a bit over time because there's a bit more to build on from his end, and he's getting closer to where Alec Guinness is in the films. But man, that first one's got to be hard. I don't know. Do you know? The more I think about it, the less I envy him. And that's not something Well, it's not something I say a lot about playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in a film.
No, true.
You know,
I've never heard you say it about anyone.
No, there you go. See, and I think it's fair to say Ewan McGregor's never said it about me. So because he'd be like,
I never heard him pass comment.
Yes, who?
Yeah,
which is fair. You know,
it's the guy from Talk Star Wars. You know?
Yeah, who?
Massive in Uganda.
Yes, yeah. Talk Horton, Here's a Who is my other spin-off show. Look for that never, because I haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. But what? So, are there any others that you kind of want to submit as candidates for Universal Levelers?
Universal Levelers within
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
No, it's it's weird because I actually love that everyone's got their own little thing that they love or dislike about Star Wars. It's like I love that. I don't think any of my friends have the same ranking of the movies that I do. And, as long as episode 2 isn't the top spot, we're always going to be friends. And it's weird. Are there many Universalists who actually like that the Star Destroyers are awesome? That's all I've got.
I think people generally pretty broadly agree on that.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing you're looking for, I guess, is the stuff that's not... Because nothing is ever truly 100% popular. It's just because it's a subjective medium, it's impossible to, well, maybe not impossible, but it's highly unlikely you're going to find something that's going to be that universally agreed upon in either any direction whatsoever. But you're looking for something that's going to get as close as you can to it.
Yeah,
that's the best description I've got. You want stuff that's kind of straddling as close as it possibly can to perfection without being. The unattainable ultimate. I mean, you can broaden it out to it doesn't have to be the films.
Yeah, but then isn't the supporting materials even more divisive?
In some respects, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, let's say a lot of people seem to like Jedi Knight 2.
Yeah.
Even now. Yeah. One of my favorite things about it was it used to be able to do bot-based multiplayer with lightsaber duels. Yeah, and there was a map that used to be able to submit custom maps, and somebody had done the training construct from the Matrix. So you could just basically, as a Jedi, just run around the little dojo where Morpheus and Neo have the fight and just lightsaber each other to death.
Oh, I love nerds.
Yeah. You got to admire the wherewithal it takes to kind of go, do you know what this needs more? Like, as much as I love this game, you know what it needs? Matrix.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, is it not enough that you can already jump 40 feet in the air? That's in the mechanics. I mean, goodness me, It's like, but you know what it could need is lightsabers.
I mean, yes. But...
Yeah, I mean, most things can. Most things certainly can be improved that way. I saw somebody show me a picture of his son the other day where his son like he had some sort of, I think he's just had his hands around, like kids can sometimes like they grab a lamppost and just kind of pose around it, Yeah. He'd done that with some sort of metal pole, and my friend had just photoshopped a lightsaber into it.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was fantastic. That kind of lightsabers improve most things. There you go. Yeah. That's probably a universal leveler. Lightsabers are cool. Yeah.
We're kind of staring the obvious in the face there, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think I'd ever be trusted with one.
Oh, no, I'd lose limbs in seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially the first time I tried to do anything remotely fancy there'd be a limb lopped off without fail. I wouldn't be like that. Is it Michelle Smith, the stunt double for Daisy Ridley, who does all those really cool cool?
She's just beyond cool, isn't she?
She's so cool. Yeah, she's too cool. But yeah, I mean, she's great. Like doing all that sort of fancy twirling and stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, but I'm not allowed. Cool.
No.
Order.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, same here. I'm for various reasons. But yeah, it's lightsabers being cool. I think is a good one.
It's hard to argue with that one.
Yeah, you can't even go as far as to say that everybody agrees on which ship is the coolest in terms of non-capital ships, because some people love the X-wing, some people love the Falcon. It's very situational.
Yeah. I quite like a TIE Interceptor.
Does anybody dislike Lando? I don't know of anybody who dislikes him. There might be people who aren't fussed about him. But I don't think anybody dislikes him.
No, I don't. Anyone dislikes him. No,
he's just too likable. It's Billy D. Williams. I mean, how can you...
See, people say that, but I only know him as Lando.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, he's in Comp Malt Liquor adverts and Alien Intruder.
And Batman. He doesn't have a huge part in Batman, it feels like. Should have done.
I've heard... what I've heard about it is that they were always intending him to be a villain in a future Tim Burton film.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
That would have been cool.
It would have been cool.
Maybe, I mean, I always rag on Tommy Lee Jones. I feel bad because he is doing the best he can with the material he's given.
He's the second best Joker in the Batman movies.
Exactly, and he is in the unenviable position of trying to get screen time and attention against Jim Carrey.
Against his peak, yeah.
A walking puppet at that point. He is some sort of puppet made flesh.
Yeah, he was. It was kind of Jim Carrey at the height of his popularity as well.
For sure,
he was just allowed to cut loose and do whatever he wanted to do.
Be as Carrey as you want. Basically.
No producer was going to tell him to calm down.
No. It was peak kind of Carrey mania.
Yeah,
both in every respect. In fact, both in the terms of his popularity and his mania.
Yeah,
it seems like that was kind of the era in which it was most pronounced.
Mm-hmm. He was the hot thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I still like the guy, but...
Yeah, for sure. Trying to think of some other universal levelers. It is trickier than it sounds. You would think it would be like, oh, yeah, no, you can... Oh, okay, no.
I guess not.
Not everybody likes Yoda.
What?
Yeah,
He's,
He's all right.
Yeah, he's...
Cool.
The more stories of him you experience, the more divided on Yoda you become, I think.
I think there is a bit of that to it. But I also think he's, some people don't like things like... Some people kind of find the stuff that's very obviously written for kids a bit more off-putting than others. But, I mean, obviously, it's all kind of...
It goes without saying it's going to be subjective.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of, obviously it's aimed for sort of 12-year-olds, so it's kind of that sort of preteen. It's all aimed at preteens, so all of it's written for kids in the strictest sense, but I mean the stuff that's really skewing younger.
Okay, yeah.
Your Jar Jars and your Yodas and stuff, who are very effective at what they do, but they're very clearly aiming for the sort of,
different market, yeah.
The toy pestering demographic.
That's the official term for them.
Yeah,
now.
I think it's true, the TPD. So, like I say, even something like Yoda isn't, I don't think, entirely kind of universally agreed upon as like this is an objective good.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I say the closest I have to a universally beloved character is Lando.
That's hard to argue with.
Yeah, it is a tricky one.
Yeah, even some people think Luke's moany, which I can understand.
Yeah, I do. I understand it. I have some sympathy with Luke because, he's basically... Would you want to have been having your every action scrutinized for a 2-week period when you were 18?
I mean, no.
I can only imagine it would have been the worst.
I'm so glad I grew up in an era before YouTube.
Yeah, for sure. Or even just any kind of social media in general. And all the ones that I was a member of early on have gone. Like, you can't, MySpace is gone. I dread to think what was on there in terms of not even, certainly not dodgy stuff, but just cringeworthy stuff.
Yeah.
We're just like, oh, shut up, you little pillock.
Yeah. So there was a video did around a couple of years ago of some goth girls lip syncing to Evanescence song.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly cringy, but at the same time, it's like, man, me and my friends would have been doing that, and I'm so glad there's no video evidence.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas that's out there forever.
Yeah.
They're going to get recognised at job interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably won't.
No, probably not. But also, the other thing as well is, for every successful person who, is on the radio and used to record themselves doing radio shows...
Yeah.
When they were a kid, there are thousands and upon thousands of people who've got loads of tape recorders somewhere that are just full of absolute junk.
Absolute junk, yeah.
And, beyond the pale in terms of just objectively horrific.
Yeah. Man, that's harsh. Crazy Train was good, man.
It still is. It's It doesn't stop until I say it stops. That's how Crazy Trains work.
It's just walled up like Gordon at the moment. I get you.
Exactly, yeah. It's just having a little snooze while I make an episode that's worth doing.
Okay, that's good.
Less is more.
I like that.
Less is more with Crazy Train. I've learned this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Character-wise, like I say, it's kind of Lando. That's about it. Technology-wise, it's lightsabers.
Yeah, or Darksaber,
Yeah. Just that kind of tech.
I've got no backing for that.
No, plasma swords. How's that?
Yeah.
A general, or a catch-all...
I meant the Hutt Darksaber, but okay.
Oh, right. Yeah, man, that's a rough
That's divisive.
One. Yeah, that's a rough one. It's not the worst. It actually,
no.
In many ways, I think it's one of the more cinematic of the old Legends books.
It's one I've remembered, put it that way.
Yeah, it plays out in my head much more like a movie than some of the others.
Yeah.
Some of them feel like they wouldn't work in any other medium, whereas I think Darksaber actually would have worked as a film.
Yes.
It might not have been great, but it worked.
But,
It would have worked. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't think of any Legend stuff, like you say, the kind of non-canon stuff, certainly the non-canon stuff, but also the kind of external universe is a bit more...
Definitely more hit and miss.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. But I think even then it's like... I don't even know that everybody agrees that the Vong are cool.
No, Vong were very divisive at the time.
Yeah, and I think even more so now as well.
Yeah, probably.
And, I can understand, I have some sympathy for it, because if you think about, like, it's... Oh, here's an enemy who, how convenient, the lightsabers don't work. How convenient, the Force doesn't work. It's, it does read like a sort of, I've got my everything-proof shield of enemies, like a sort of, almost like the Mary Sue of villains. You know what I mean?
I get what you mean. I'm just annoyed about it.
Just that kind of, that sort of notion of like, they're good at this and they're good at this and they're invincible to this. And it's like, how convenient. Mm-hmm. So it's all the things that these characters are established as known for, you've decided they're arbitrarily, completely resistant to. And actually, in the end, the reasons for it are kind of quite arbitrary.
Yeah.
There's not really any sort of...
Not really.
Especially the longer the story goes on, it sort of feels like it gets a little bit more, even more convoluted as they start to explore actually that they're not, things like when it starts off. I mean, I'm obviously in spoiler territory, but at the same time, it's a 20-year-old franchise in some ways.
You've had 20 years, yeah.
Exactly.
Come on.
But the notion initially that they're sort of pangalactic beings and they've come from outside the known space, and actually all they've done is just come from a bit further along in space than everybody else is used to. Yeah. Stuff like that just felt like a bit of a cop-out, in the end. Yeah. But, I mean, ultimately I haven't written any Star Wars books, so what do I know?
No, I mean, I'm not allowed to call order.
Well, I mean, it's licensing, ultimately. That's what it boils down to.
Too, but yeah.
But, that's fair. I mean, that's fair enough. Ultimately, there's reasons why these things are controlled. Gatekeeping is sometimes a force for good.
Yeah, that's what you're seeing.
If it means I'm not allowed to write Star Wars books, that seems fair. Because I don't even know where I'd start.
It's weird they mention you by name, but
it does seem a little bit mean-spirited.
Vindictive, to be honest with you. Yeah,
touch mean-spirited. But I've kind of made my peace with it. I've ultimately accepted that if they, they can't stop me doing this.
No, we're happy with our roles as enthusiast press.
Exactly. And ultimately, if the only person who can stop me doing this is me.
Yep.
And
he's tried.
No current plans. I took a week off. Once. Honestly. I thought that might get you. Every now and then.
Yeah.
Every now and then he falls apart. And it's me who made him break. Duel of the Fates being a great piece of music.
Yes. John Williams is probably a universal leveler, isn't he? Even people who pooed all over the prequels for whatever reason, I feel they should admit to themselves that the scores are vastly superior.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say John Williams is probably a universally beloved part of Star Wars. He makes Star Wars what it is ultimately.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
preaching to the choir there.
Even his influence in kind of Giacchino and John Powell's stuff is so clearly there.
Yeah, how could it not be?
Well, exactly, but just him as a universal leveler. I mean, even, obviously, I think people are starting to kind of warm to George as a universal leveler again. But then I think that's time being a great healer, as they say, unless you're diabetic, in which case insulin is far superior.
Yeah.
But John Williams has never been through those dips and troughs. He's always been kind of, like you say, even when people are like, I thought that film was rubbish. And you're just like, the soundtrack though, right? And they're like, oh, obviously, that's great. Because it's John, like you say, it's John Williams.
Yeah.
Even John Williams, when he's less good, is still great.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm not the biggest fan of the sequel era soundtracks, but I accept that there are some standout pieces in there.
Yeah.
And, I will still happily sit and listen to one of them very happily at any given time, because there's some, like you say, there's some crackers in there.
Yeah.
March of the Resistance, what's not to like?
I don't know.
Ray's theme's quite sweet,
Oh, I love Ray's theme.
Yeah, it's nice. And like I say, in the prequels, it's Duel of the Fates, Across the Stars. It's just very, very, very good.
Yeah.
He's just great at what he does. And everybody, I think, recognises that.
No argument here.
Indeed.
Not allowed, court order.
Pod racing cool? Pod race itself?
That seems to divide people as well, I think, in my experience.
Okay. Because I feel like it is cool.
It is cool, in my opinion, but I think a lot of people feel it's overlong. A lot of people feel it's overly showy.
Okay. I mean, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see how they would come to that kind of conclusion. I don't necessarily see it that way, and I sat close enough to the screen when I saw it at the cinema that I was basically in the race. So, I feel like if anybody should have beef with it, it should be me. But I don't. I just find it quite enjoyable.
Yeah, quite relaxing.
Get quite a visceral sort of, you get quite a swept up in it all,
Yes, I agree.
In that kind of in the speed and stuff. But like I say, especially when your view is close to the screen. Yeah. You're literally in there. Yeah, in many respects. Have you got any more? Because I'm struggling.
Yeah, it's harder the closer we're getting, isn't it?
Yeah,
universal levelers.
I mean,
are there any Star Wars fans who don't like Vader, really, even as a villain?
I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe he's a universal villain leveler. I think some people don't necessarily. I don't think it's that they don't like Tarkin, but I think there's a lot of people who just aren't really fussed about him. Yeah,
I mean, again, for allowed to be wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, he's not penetrated pop culture like Vader has.
No,
inarguably. Vader is throughout. He's got that really cool visual. The aesthetic stuff works in his favour.
The look is what has made him so memorable. He's a fantastic character design.
It's the look. It's the voice.
Yeah.
It's the classic. No, I am your father. The sort of the stuff that's penetrated pop culture is the really iconic lines and the visuals and the.
Can you imagine a world in which Darth Vader's mask is, it's ubiquitous? He's birthday party balloons, he's pencil toppers. You see Darth Vader's mask everywhere. Yeah. Just imagine a world in which that's Peter Cushing's face.
Oh, wow. That Pez dispenser's freaky as all hell.
Yeah, but,
I would buy it.
One.
Yeah,
exactly.
Obviously. Yeah.
I mean, so maybe George missed a trick.
Maybe. Just, I want to rebrand this around Tarkin now.
Thanks, Kermit.
Yeah. I mean, not entirely dissimilar. Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, listeners, the universal leveler discussion is not closed just because we've talked about it this week. If you think of a good one and you want to send it in for our consideration, then feel free. Podcast@emotionally14.com is the way to do that. Just send it in, or you can tweet us at emotionally14 or at Talk Star Wars. You can send it to our Facebook pages. You can
consider yourself encouraged.
Exactly. You can basically send us this message anywhere. If you think there's a universal leveler we've missed off the list, or you don't agree with one of the ones we've chosen, then feel free to let us know what you think. And maybe, ideally, if you're kind of knocking one of ours off the table, then maybe put another one up on there for our evaluation. It would be nice to kind of have some, almost like a Room 101 style dynamic going on.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. But there you go. Those are the ways to do it. So you know, this I say, just because we've had the discussion here and a couple of people have sent them in, it doesn't mean this book is closed. There's still many
stuff to talk about. That's why we're here.
Star Wars has so many things. There must be more that we've missed.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
I mean, it's not entirely guaranteed, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility. Yeah. So
we've been doing this podcast how long now, and we still haven't talked all of the Star Wars.
No, exactly. I mean, you've been here for a year and a bit, and before that,
somehow,
yeah. I mean, before that, I feel like 3 years total. The show,
yeah. I don't know. Ask for CV.
Episode 174 is this week, so that's at least 3 years plus. Yeah. 3 years, and it'll be in year
3 years and change.
I'd imagine it'd be in year 4 right now. Okay. I should say the 4th year as opposed to it's at school.
Yeah,
because that would just be. Can you imagine? It's just so weird.
Yeah, really easily.
Yeah, it's odd. I don't really. Yeah. Anyway, I feel like this is as nice a place as any to kind of wrap up this week's Talk Star Wars podcast. So if you've enjoyed the show and you wish to contribute in any respect, as I say, especially in the discussion of Universal Levelers, or maybe your favorite Star Wars games, you can tell us a bit more about that. Podcast at emotionally14.com or at Talk Star Wars at emotionally14 on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the works. We're available on all good podcast catchers. You can do that, pretty much anywhere there's podcasts. You can find Talk Star Wars, I think it's fair to say. Certainly on the main ones.
I've never found a podcast that Talk Star Wars wasn't available on.
Exactly. So far, I've yet to find one
everywhere.
myself. Yeah. Even things like iHeartRadio, which I've never looked into myself, I'm reliably informed we're on. So
that's fine. Then,
I think you can find us anywhere on the web. In failing that, talkstarwars.co.uk is a place with just the podcast. That's literally the podcast player. So you can
just a podcast.
Yeah, you can just have a listen to the latest one, or you can go back and listen to the entire back catalogue, all 3+ years worth.
Nice.
Yeah, if you want to subscribe, obviously we will encourage that happily. There's also the podcast is also available in audio form on the YouTube channel. So if you're one of those people who likes to have a YouTube video on in the background, Talk Star Wars can be
that's where you should go.
Can be that for you. Emotionally 14 on YouTube is the place to find that, and emotionally14.com is the website where it all happens. If you want to contribute to Talk Star Wars in a monetary way, then Patreon is a good place to do it. So patreon.com/Talk Star Wars for as little as $1 a month or whatever you care to give. You can support Talk Star Wars and help us, cover some of our associated costs with running the site and the show. And in return for doing so, we provide an ad-free feed, which drops a couple of days before the main feed release. So if you want to keep up with the show, somebody like a really smart person like Dan Thorpe, or somebody who, basically one of our really smart and wonderful listener base, whether that's Patreon or otherwise, patreon.com/Talk Star Wars is the place where if you want to contribute and, like I say, help us keep bits and pieces running that would otherwise kind of come out of our own pockets.
Much appreciated.
Indeed. Brad, if people want to find you on social media, what's the best way of doing that?
Be advised against it. The best thing to do, if you want to follow me, if you really, that's how you want to live your life, you can add me on Facebook at facebook.com/BradHarmerBarnes, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RealBradHB. If you want to hear me talking even more Star Wars than I talk Star Wars on the Talk Star Wars podcast, because you just can't get enough of me talking Star Wars, you want to hear me talk Star Wars somewhere else, then you can find me on Fire When Ready, which is available on emotionally14.com, and you can follow them on Instagram at Fire When Ready UK. If you want to help me keep the lights on as well as just E14, because we've all got bills to pay, Rob, shut up, and you can buy my books on Amazon and Audible.
Yeah, fair enough. And you can do that by visiting the Team E14 page on the website, and underneath Brad's picture there is a little set of links where you can go and buy books, and it's
everyone profits.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't cost you any more. Brad gets a little something, E14 gets a little something, and you can buy, Amazon's pretty good value for most things on there, right? You can buy a lot of stuff.
Again, what have you ever gone looking for that you couldn't find on Amazon?
This is it, Now, sometimes you can find it cheaper elsewhere, but at the same time,
Howitzer, maybe.
It's been known, It's been known, but it's not I wouldn't say it's the most common eventuality from visiting Amazon, as you find that it's way more expensive. It's unlikely. Not out of the realm of possibility.
Second-hand stuff, maybe. But
second-hand, that's true.
That's more eBay's remit,
Yeah, out of print things. It's fair to say.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But even still a good resource. I love Amazon, so
great. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, and they're kind enough to make us an affiliate, so we have a store for exactly that purpose.
Yeah.
If you want to follow me on social media, I can be found on Twitter and Instagram at RobWadeVision. And if you're talking to any of the Emotionally 14 Talk Star Wars social medias, you're probably talking to me. I would be remiss, as always, if I didn't mention the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. So we're 8 wonderful outlets full of Star Wars podcast wonder and general geek-friendly content. So there are 8. Talk Star Wars is one of them. We have the Tumbling Saber podcast, the Generation X-Wing podcast, the Nerd Room, the Rogue Squadron podcast, the San Diego Sabres radio podcast, Retro Inc., and the Sandcrawler cast with Dan and Mike. Those 8 wonderful outlets are all part of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network, and you can find all their latest episodes on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com or on Twitter at SWCommonwealth, and take your first steps into a larger world.
I would say they are the universal leveler of Star Wars podcasts.
I think that's fair to say, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to find people who disagree with that.
Boom, tied it all together.
There you go. Nicely done. It's expertly threaded. So we are done for this week on Talk Star Wars. We will see you next week for episode 175. Look after yourselves and each other, and until next time, may the Force be with you.